so that others can partake of this later. And we'll see how that goes. We're doing the best we can with it, and we'll upload it later in the week. I'm not sure it's going to happen today because that takes a little bit of effort, but we'll see how it all unfolds. Can you still hear me, Sue? You can't, Susan, you can't hear me at all? You're just blah, blah, blah.
It's kind of blah, blah.
Okay.
It's not crisp and clear.
Okay. What do you think it is? Is it the speakers? God knows, huh? I will do my best to talk louder than I normally would. I would do that, and I would invite you to maybe take a closer seat up, whatever works for you, because we have limited technology, and they'll tell me when things go well. Okay, so I've broken this day down into 3 parts. Our first hour together, our second hour, and then the last hour, which will include the pizza time and all that, and whatever else happens. And you are free to interrupt me at any time with a question. I'm not stuck. As long as I stay on my 3x5 cards, we're going to be good today. I'm going to do my utmost to do exactly that. And of course, there it is. All right. I want to invite, first thing I want to do is invite Joan Pete, who's president of our board, to come up and just simply share where we are as a community with the COVID situation. Ms. Joan, use your outputs.
You'll never hear me unless I take off this mask. I'm sorry. And hi, everyone. And I just want to share with, if you can't hear me, please just raise your hand. I want to share with everybody what the board's been thinking about opening the church. Our goal is to be as safe as possible in opening, and at the same time not be held hostage to fear. And we know that we're just not going to please everybody. There's some people who won't come because they don't feel safe enough. There's some people who won't come because they feel we're too restrictive enough. So we just know, we know that. As you know, the Sunday service is open having it in, and the Wednesday prayer service is now open. There in May and June, there'll be more groups that are coming back to meet inside the church. The AA group, the men's group, the Course in Miracles, the Light, Essence of Light Spiritual Church will be coming back. If I've missed anybody, let me know. So that's all that we're doing for now with the meetings. The other, I think the most difficult thing is the masks. We're attempting to follow medical advice and guidance on that the best we can. The CDC and the Cleveland Clinic say that if you've been fully vaccinated, you can meet with other people who've been fully vaccinated without masks. That being said, we will never make a requirement that you be vaccinated to be in this church. We're just not going to go that route. So we're going to ask that in large meetings like this and in the church service that you keep your masks on. In smaller meetings, if everybody agrees, you'd be free to take your mask off. Now, the board met last week in the church for the first time in a year, and it was wonderful. There's just an energy when you meet together that isn't there when you meet on Zoom. And we felt comfortable enough that we were mask free. I myself do not feel comfortable yet in larger groups being without a mask, because I just don't know what other people's health status is, basically. So we are taking it day by day. We're listening to guidance. We're watching this, following the statistics. I can't tell you when things will change or what the next change will be, but we'll be sure to let you know. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
When do you think the Course in Miracles will resume in person?
That's my understanding.
Tracy, when is Course in Miracles returning?
Yeah, it's the second,
May 4th.
May 4th, the first Tuesday. Yeah.
That's right, John, May 4th. Yeah. There you go. Next week.
Okay, yeah, next week. All right. Yes, Susan.
Is it possible to inquire how many people have had the vaccine for today to see if we need to sit for 4 hours with a mask on? Now, I notice our system is not turned on, and I'm going to go do that now. But we have the We have the system that cleans air in here that's been installed. The majority of us have had vaccinations. And if we open the doors, maybe we can avoid having to wear a mask for 4 hours today.
Funny you should say
And
that.
I know
That's our next lesson.
I have to ask a question.
No, it's really not a can of worms, it's a legitimate question. And it's a question that we've been having amongst the board as well. And so we made a decision for today's meeting, because we advertised that masks are required. We wanted to respect all those that might be here because we're wearing a mask. So, because we considered, but the CDC is still saying that indoors, vaccinated or not, unless everyone's been vaccinated, and I know for a fact that is not the case here. So we couldn't pose the question. So as the CDC releases their awareness of what can and can't work, we will follow their guidance to the best of our ability. And so that's a good question, and we seriously considered it for today. But then I realized that, well, we all realized that the CDC says not to, and we advertise a certain way. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones, appreciate it. Tough work being on the board president in case. Thank you for that. One of the questions that someone asked was, where are we now? Through the grace of God, the board renewed my contract last board meeting, so I'm in for another year, which is a beautiful thing. Thank you. Well, the truth is that I've been here 3 years, and funny thing, when I pulled this whiteboard up, it has something on the back. And I'll just say it says, "Welcome SUMI, SUMI," which is an organization that I belong to. It's Southeast Unity Ministers, Inc. And the first time I was at this church was March of 2018, and that was the whiteboard, and that's what it said. And I pulled it out this week. That was the first time I was ever at this church. That was when I found out Marge was leaving, and that's when I said, I wonder if they're looking for a transition. And that's where the ball started. So I thought it was funny that I would see that just this week. So what it means is we've been in contract with Dr. Gary Simmons, a Unity minister, for 2 years now. So my first year was here assessing what was going on in the organization, and we made a decision that we could probably move forward with this program. Why this program? Even though we've been in it for 2 years, there is still question about what is it, what are we doing, where is it, why? You know, what do we get from it? Because that's the way we think. If we're paying into something, we want to get something in return. That's the psychological factor. And part of that is, some folks have said questions like, oh, wait a second, what does spirit groups and the Q process got to do with any of this mission-centric stuff? Yes.
Just clarify, you're saying 2 years and 3 years. 2 years and 3 years.
Okay, so the question is, I've been in the ministry for 3 years, but you've been in the program for 2 with Dr. Gary. And so he just retired his pulpit ministry after 6 years in Mission Center. And at the conclusion of his 6 years, they made a determination that they were ready to move on and hire a minister who would continue to fulfill their mission. It wouldn't have to go into restructuring a ministry. You know, as we know, we've been restructuring for these last 3 years. And that's why you bring a transitional minister in to restructure things so that it's cleaner and more efficient for the next person to come in. And that's my objective as well. Mission-centric overall, its premise is to build sustainability within a ministry. Now, you pretty much got to be living under a rock if you don't know that church membership has diminished tremendously across all faiths, except those that have small group ministries. Those that are initiating and actively pursuing small group ministries are thriving. That's spirit groups. That is one of the catalysts with which for us to continue to flourish and to not see a drop in membership. Now, because we're in transition, and we are, although we're steady, which is a beautiful thing, the virus obviously dropped our membership. When in January of 2020, we had 130 people here on a Sunday service. We had 32 last week. You look at those numbers alone and don't look at anything in between, we feel there's this drastic thing that has happened. But much like Joan has shared, some folks are not coming because of the mask, some folks are coming because of the mask. It's a quandary. We've got 99 people renewed their membership. Okay, and when you look at that membership list, they are active in this ministry in one form or another. Very few people are not directly active in some mode. So what that means is that we have, in our own way, dropped off those folks that were not fully committed. Is it 100%? No. Some folks moved. A couple of folks passed away. A couple of other folks are in nursing care, which is evident with our age society. That's just the way it goes. So in order to attract those seeking a way to enhance their spiritual beingness, small groups is the way to that stuff. And small groups can be defined many different ways. Spirit groups is just one of them, but it's an orderly function. It has an actual goal through it. It's not you're just going to study a piece of material. It has the 5 C's. Does anybody remember what the 5 C's are? Didn't expect it to. But Spirit Group provides an avenue for us as spiritual beings to expand who we are. Okay, so let me tell you what they are. Now, in every spirit group, these 5 C's are addressed. Communion. Ringing a bell? Connection. Compassion. Community. And challenge. Spirit Groups is a program that we pay a nominal fee to, $25 a month, to remain members of this organization, to achieve these things. And every time a spirit group meets, it's a 6 to 8 week window. Gus. Communion. Sorry. Communion is personal reflection, prayer, and meditation time. Okay. In a spirit group, there will be prayer and meditation time built into the lesson. Then there's connection, which is fun, fulfilling relationships, group activity. When the group comes together and does something social, ice cream social, spirit groups did that. Okay? Then you've got compassion, which is support and care for each other in the joys and the disappointments in life, without judging. How cool is that, right? The real support that you get. Community, serving together to enrich one aspect of our community, whether it's the facility itself, Health Haven, or any of those other places that are out there. The spirit group gets together and does something for the community. And then the challenge is to find an area that we're skittish on, concerned about, not real strong about, and we get to explore it within a spirit group so that we can strengthen what might be considered. How many of you have ever done a meditation out loud to another person? You guys, any of you in spirit groups have done it. Given a meditation to other people. But a lot of us go, oh, I don't know what to say. You know, I'm scared, don't make me do that. Spirit groups is an opportunity for you to explore different ways. I remember when Claire did hers in our spirit group, remembered vividly. And she was scared, she didn't know, she knew how to do it, she'd done it with other people, but were we gonna still love her when she was not? It's a normal factor. So spirit groups allows us to do these things and to build a relationship with each other without the steeple in mind. Because this was originally designed to be done at home. Joan can speak to how important it is to open your home to somebody. You build a whole different kind of relationship with an individual when you're in your home versus the community room for 15 minutes once a week. You see, so these add value. and this is the material that you might use for that spirit group is endless. It's endless. Now, the program offers videos, which we've been doing, you know, which is an actual lesson. It also includes prayer and meditation. It's a little on the woo-woo side. You know, it's a little what I call beginners unity. So there's a time and place for that. When there's a community of people coming in here who have never been with you, they heard about it. My friend told me to come. We have an introduction to those 5 C's for them, a video program where they can get themselves wrapped around it. So this is God. It's all around our spiritual growth without really putting an emphasis on the word God. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to use God, but I'm talking about the millennials and the folks behind them. God is a bad word, but spirituality is not. We're Unity Spiritual Center. We're not going to not talk about God. We're not going to not talk about Jesus, but in the sense of building one's spiritual growth and sustaining our community, this is an ideal way to do it. It's easy to attract somebody to that group. Oh, what do you mean you can't golf today? Yeah, I'm going to my spirit groups. Oh, what's that? Oh, you want to come? Because the door is always open to invite people in. Spirit groups, they are very, very successful in bringing millennials in. And they're going to be the ones running this church after we're gone. And that's the sustainability, because we're at choice point. We can decide to throw the whole mission-centered thing out. You can go ahead and put an application out and hire a traditional minister. Nothing wrong with it. That's always an option. What you will get in return for that is someone will come in here with their vision, and you will restructure everything around that person's objective on how to find God, whatever that looks like for them. But through the transition piece with Mission-Centered, you're hiring somebody that's going to fulfill the mission, not their personal mission. Let the ministers fulfill their mission outside their own practice. They're here to move this ministry, not move me with you coming with me. My mission is very different than transforming lives, and I'm okay with that. Okay, then the other thing that comes into here is the Q prop. Any questions on spirit groups? That's why we do spirit groups. Now, we're opening it up because we've done just about all the material we can that the program offers. And once or twice a year, there'll be another material that's been videotaped. But right now, we've kind of used out their program. So we're opening it up to other avenues with which we can still have spirit groups. So sometime soon, probably end of May, early June, I don't have a definitive date on it yet, bless you, I'm going to do a Sunday talk, and for 6 weeks, I'm going to talk about something specific and end that talk with 5 questions. And then spirit groups will meet. They will watch the talk, just the talk portion of the service, and break up into groups to handle those 5 questions to further enhance what the messages say. And in that spirit group, somebody will open in prayer, somebody will end in prayer, somebody will do a meditation, someone will keep track of time, somebody will start talking about a social activity, a community activity. All that's going to happen in a 6 to 8 week window, so that you're getting beyond the Sunday talk, because you can only digest so much in a 20-minute. As dynamic as I am, I know that you're only picking up 1 or 2 thoughts or concepts that are being said, because that's the human element. So now you get to walk out of here knowing that sometime later that week, you're going to get to know more about that talk. There'll be a Bible verse on it. So spirit groups can be very guided. You know, it's not without God at all. We're a spiritual community, and God is part of that element. Does that make sense? Okay. Then the other thing that we offer is the Q process. Now, I want to share with you something. It's a little, it's a little long-winded, really only about 3 minutes, but it felt like forever to me when I was reading it. So I don't know what it's going to feel like to you guys. But it's a good explanation as to why we do spirit groups. And so rather than me regurgitating, I wanted to share it directly from here. which is a wonderful text, Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, which we are currently studying. During our formative years, we come into this world needing two things, love and protection. Depending on how well those needs are met in our early years, we will make decisions about ourselves and about the world. Often, what rises is a negative opinion of our own value and worth. Throughout that time, at some precognitive level, we all experience moments when we didn't get the love and protection we needed to manage developmental stress. Perhaps you got yelled at and pulled back from crossing the road in a manner that made us think we were bad. Perhaps our parents weren't there for us in some way when we needed them. It could have been at that moment dinner was burning and they needed to drop everything and deal with it and they left you behind. Without the mental capacity to view ourselves and our experience in a reflective context, we're young. We're not going to be able to digest and analyze what's just happened. We just know that our needs weren't met. We personalize the pain of not having our needs met. Over countless vulnerable and impressionable moments like these, because our needs were not met in some fashion, and depending upon our level of cognitive development, we may have reached incorrect, faulty conclusions about ourselves, our family, our friends, and the world, which eventually grew into beliefs. We started to believe things about ourselves that were not true because our formative years are not able to discern, clearly they have to go to the stove. That's why I didn't get my bottle. All we know is we didn't get the bottle. Mom must not love me. You know, and we draw these conclusions, and those conclusions draw into our adulthood. For a lot of times they're hidden. They're masked. We cover them up, our weaknesses. Who wants to experience our weaknesses? Nobody. We want them to go away. I'm an adult. I don't have to think that way. We don't have any way to process these emotions that are sitting there. It's described as angry dogs in the basement. You know, they need to be fed. And if they don't get fed, they're going to create some way to create havoc so that they're fed. That's the ego. And that's what happens as we get older, those beliefs haven't changed. In fact, they may have even been reinforced. So the Q process says, when you are in a state of judging somebody else for their behavior, the Q process says, please look at a mirror, because you can't see in another person that which is not inside yourself. So there's the mirror aspect. And so while you're judging this other scenario, the Q process says, take a look at the mirror and what is it about you that is seeing that in another human being? And there's a whole process. It's a quantum leap in our spiritual evolvement, because now we get to take a look at the way we judge others, but also how come that stuff starts to billow up when we start to explode and we start to have anger fits, can't sleep, can't eat. You know, everything is, the Q process gives us a way to work out that element of discord within us. Something is causing us to not feel right about a situation. And the Q process dives into that. And so we're doing our best twice a year to teach that Q process. Because the more accountable you are about your reactions to others, the less you'll be bringing that stuff to church. You see what I'm saying? The less discord in a church or any spiritual community is more inviting for people to walk in the front door. Those of you that were here last Sunday, we had a guest. Her name is Debbie, pretty confident she's going to return. She said, I don't know what's happened here, but this is not the same place I came to 3 years ago. She said, I swear, it was like the lights weren't on. It was so dark and gloomy. I felt totally boxed in. She said, I walked in here and went, I'm sure I was here before. There's a difference. And so we're evolving as a clearing out of the elements that sit in the air that cause people to go, it was a nice talk, but I'm not coming back. And you don't know why. You wonder why there's such a revolving door. Why don't they stay? Right? Because there's 3 reasons why somebody comes to church. So it's after the invite. There's 3 reasons why somebody returns to church. They like the music, they like the talk, they like the socialization, the community. It's one or more of those reasons. If one of those 3 is not met, they will not come back. The millennials, it's all about community. They want that feel of a community. Spirit groups provides that community for them. There are folks that are in spirit groups that are very active in church and never come on Sundays. They don't feel called to do that. They're getting their needs met and they're part of the community. So the Q process is shadow work, the stuff that's sitting behind our hearts that's preventing us from having a full expression of God in our lives. So the Q process gets us to work on those things, those beliefs that are not true about us, but that we believe they are. And we operate based on it. And so we will continue to do those 2 measurements to continue to flow, because the Q process is also very inviting to the millennials. They want to know why they do these things. They're questioning all the time. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal to invite somebody to take a look at stuff that's going on for them. So those are the 2 things that we've been doing as part of our Mission-Centric. And I want to invite Mr. John Booth, who is our treasurer. So, are there any questions on spirit groups and Q process? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm the younger, and her question is, what's the age of the millennials? Tracy, how old are you?
58.
So she's 58, she's a millennial. I'm 65 almost, and I'm just at the end of the millennials. I believe it's 1960 is the date. Or, oh, say again?
1946 to 64.
So baby boomer. So 47 is a millennium? Baby boomer. 64. So anybody born in 63 or younger? No, that's not
65 or
whatever.
65 or earlier.
Okay, 65 or later.
Yes.
To be a millennial.
To be a millennium.
Millennials are the youngest. Aren't my kids millennials?
Yes.
Okay.
No, your kids are the next generation X. Point being is that we want to attract younger people to our ministry. That's what's going to sustain it. So how do we do that? How do we do that and still honor our relationship with God? There's been some talk that this program that we're in, this Mission-Centric, doesn't say a whole lot about God. There's a reason for that. A real good reason. They're not our spiritual coaches. They're our business coach. The spiritual aspect comes from the ministry. We're not hired. We didn't hire them to give us spiritual guidance. We hired them to move us into a sustainable ministry. So the guiding part has to come from the minister. You see, so you'll see that I'm kind of changing directions a little bit, and that I'm no longer going to refer to myself as the transitional minister. I'm your spiritual coach. I'm your spiritual guide. You know, that's also guiding us into this other way of doing business. You see, so the guiding part, the spiritual aspect of our ministry still comes from the minister. However, that's defined. So when you hire somebody, that you're looking for a spiritual coach who's willing to walk into an existing system that's working. That's the objective. Now, what's true is that this program that we're in has not been tried and true to the 10th degree. You know, we know that. This is it's more than a pilot program. But with all the data that was used to create it, its viability and sustainability is pretty strong. Because we're not doing anything that's outrageous. We're simply looking for a way to continue to attract people to us that will fulfill our mission long after we're gone. Isn't that what every church wants? But what we know is if we keep doing what we've been doing and what all the other churches are doing, we won't be. We won't be building sustainability. We'll be out of business in less than 10 years. And that, we don't want that, I'm assuming, right? So we're better off trying something than doing nothing. And so this is the something that's out there, we're paving the way, and I'm fully committed that this will work. John? I'm sorry? Yes, ma'am. You're out of my peripheral.
As people who know that some people learn different ways than others do. And if folks aren't resonating with the key process, is there any talk that you would about using that to the same place would work or some other program?
I'm not in a box at all about it. I mean, the Q process works, but if there's another process, because the Q process involves the introspective work. It's not willy-nilly out there. You have an opportunity to take a look at what's going on within you. Now, there isn't anything wrong with anybody here or anybody who walks in the door. We're not here to fix you. That's not what's going on. So all of us have to find our own way to experience more of God, however that's defined for you. So we have traditional church, which is the meditation and the talk and the music and some coffee and cake at the end of the service. That's basically, and so we offer classes, which is one way to learn. We offer spirit groups, which is another way to learn. And the Q process is a third way to learn. So there's 3 operating styles right now. If there's the 4th and the 5th and you've got an idea, I'm open. I'm not boxed in at all. I hope that helps. Hey. I'm sorry? Oh, she's waving.
Everybody wave it down. There we go. I feel better. Reverend Mo, I have
Oh,
a
excuse me.
thought. It seems like the way you're describing the Q process, which I have not had the opportunity to participate in, is sort of inviting us to shed what it is that has come to be inside of ourselves that may hinder our relationship with the Spirit.
Yes. And most of you have seen The Matrix.
Yeah.
And so you have a choice. Take a red pill or a blue pill. The red pill means that you're willing to awaken up to your full potential. While the blue pill says, I'm good. I'm okay with that. Let me just go play pickleball every day and barbecue once in a while and share a beer with some friends. There's nothing wrong with either of those. And that's the fun part of this ministry. You get to choose whether you want to take the red pill or the blue pill. And we will love you anyway. You see? And that's the acceptance and the clarity that we don't want to be made wrong. Oh, well, I got to go do that. If I'm going to join that church, they made me do that. No, that's not it at all. We're all on our own journeys. And that's the fun part. And there's nothing wrong with it. So, but let's not blame somebody else for me not having my own spiritual awakening. Because it's a self job. As unity doesn't teach. Bang you on the head until you get it. We demonstrate it, we walk it, we talk it, we try to live it, we try to study it and bows and blows and put it inside us, embody us. Yeah. I think I used to embody ourselves with it. Right? And that's the walking the truth. Each one of us has a different path that we're walking. And it's all good. It's all good. Any other questions on that? John Booth is going to talk to us about our finances. So the question was, where are we? So we can't do that without talking about our finances. So John Booth, it's all it is.
Well, let's do a song check here. How does this work?
I can hear.
Yeah. Gus, can you hear me? Okay, then we won't need a mic then. We're going to talk about what the treasurer does. And basically, of course, the treasurer, counts the money, but he does more than that. He's responsible to the church for the financial and accounting documents. Now, fortunately, I don't have to prepare them all by myself. There's a staff that does this. The staff is really headed by Joni. Joni Spires is a retired CPA, and she's the one that actually certifies our financial records. And they come to the treasurer, and the treasurer certifies them to the church. And she has a staff of one, of course, and that's Joanne Howard. And Joanne is a contractor for the church. So she's not really a staff member, but she works an X number of hours. What we are dedicated to is a complete, accurate accounting of the money that comes in and the money that is expensed. And it's our job to match the expenditures with the income, because if you don't, we're not going to be in business very long. And be assured that the church is a business. We're licensed by the state as a business. There are certain rules that we have to conform to as a nonprofit. We have to certify our nonprofit status once a year by sending in a copy of our board minutes. The church has been very fortunate in the fact that this is a very generous congregation. We have a budget, and we live by that budget. The budget is determined by a committee at the beginning of the year, based on what the expenditures and the income was based on the previous year. And so we know that we have a set amount to live within the year and also within a month. And for us, that budget is $208,000 for the year. That's kind of a large sum, but if you break it down into monthly, that's about a monthly budget for $17,000. And that's what we need to keep the building maintained, to pay the salaries, and to pay for guest speakers and that sort of thing. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about the business model that we have. Like every business model, our intent, of course, is to make a profit. Since we're a nonprofit, we don't intend to make a profit that we carry over. But if we did carry it over, we would be using it with some dedicated expense, such as our most common one is our outreach programs. And that's where the excess money would go. Where are we now? Fortunately, we're in the fourth month. The first several months were kind of just break even, a little bit underwater. Then we were underwater again. Basically, going into April, we're $7,000 in the hole or in the red. That's based on an overall outlay of about $177,000. So from experience, we know that you cannot go like 1 or 2 months, because 1 or 2 months, particularly early in the year, it's very difficult to set up that. So you have to be patient. And as it turns out, I'm told that the April funds have been accounted. They haven't been published yet. So I'm just telling you what information that I've been told, but it's very reliable. And just within this past week, $25,000 was received. That is astounding. That's astounding. And I congratulate the congregation for fostering an atmosphere that's conducive to giving. And it certainly makes my job very, very much easier. So those are the formal remarks. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Booth.
Okay.
So we have a test. Everybody get your cell phones out. If you don't have it, that's probably a good thing. I want you to create a new contact. I want you to create a new contact. Literally go to your contacts and say, new one. This is the telephone number for your new contact. 844-996-3646. 844-996-3646. And the name of that contact is USCFL, Unity Spiritual Center, Florida, FL, dash text, T-E-X-T. USCFL text, T-E-X-T. I text you a message. T-E-X-T. That is your new contact. Now, when you send that contact a notice, it will automatically give you how to set up your account on Tidely to text to give. You no longer have to go to a website. Once you set this number up with your data, even if you already have a Tidely account, if you use the same email, it will automatically know who you are. That phone number is connected to our Tidely account. This is one of the ways that we attract the millennials, because that's what they do, is texting to give.
Can you give that number again, please?
844. One moment. The timed out. 844-996-3646. How many of you watch your YouTube videos? A couple of you. Stormy, in the next very, very near future, you're going to start seeing that come across the video. Text to give. Language has been made up so that those that are watching it that may not be involved in our ministry don't want to go and get a piece of paper and write the address down, find it, and all that stuff. They then will be able to establish that. So I'm going to show you how it works. How many of you guys know Frank Masaka? Mr. Frank. Frank is a member of our ministry, and he is a retired contractor. He built things all over the country. So he volunteers his time to come into your home and do minor repair work for no cost. You buy the parts, he puts them in. And he gives you a piece of paper when he's done. And he says, these are the parts I bought. These are how many hours I spent. And you do what you do. So I have an invoice from Frank. Frank came and hung a whole bunch of shelves up for us, because we have a mixture of steel beams and wood beams. They're intermixed. You know, we go to put something in the wall and it just laughs at us. So we call Frank. So Frank gave me an invoice. He did work for us for 4 hours. He did some work with my mother-in-law's. He said, here's your bill. He said, for the handyman fund of $100. So I'm going to use my text feature, and I'm going to text my Tidely account $100 for handyman services. And the way you do that is you text my USCFL text message, and I'm going to put in the text message, because I've already set it up. I'm going to say $100 space handyman. And hit return. $100 just came out of my account, moved over to Tidely, gonna get credited to the handyman ministry. And it even comes up and says, thanks for your giving. In fact, I set it up so I pay the fee. You have choice now. So I actually got deducted $103.30. Done. Here.
Do you have to go online to set that up?
Nope.
With text, or the first time you text it, will it connect you?
My understanding is based on how many calls doing it, you get it right on text. You can always go online, but I don't think online gets you the text.
How can we get in touch with Frank?
How do we get in touch with who?
Right.
Right. He's in the e-newsletter. His info is at the bottom of the e-newsletter. Frank's a good guy. Frank's a really good guy. So what I encourage you to do during the break that we're gonna have, I'm gonna give a break to see that clock, that's there. When it says 11 o'clock, please be back in the room. That should be enough time for us to do whatever it is we need to do. But set up your text account for Tidely during the break. You know, you'll have some information, not, you know, you're gonna need your credit card or your checking account, whatever, however you wanna do that. They take it out of checking accounts, they take it out of MasterCard, Visa.
Also, this is an addition to what we're, it doesn't negate what we've already got set up.
Correct. It does not take away anything that you've got done. You know, your automatic giving still stays intact. So if you're, want to buy some lottery tickets, not lottery, so.
Chinese auction.
I'll end with this. This little box came in the mail this week. I said, I got an email saying, we'll send it to you free. And I went, you know, I'm skeptic. What do you mean free? We read the fine print. It is free.
Oh.
I was like, dang. So all it is a cute little box that the bookstore can use, Chinese auction can use, class registration can use, and automatically the money gets funded into the Tidely. You don't have to pay a third party any fees at all. Boom, it's done. So it's like a lot of us have already had those little devices where you swipe a card. Meters. But this is the same process. You throw a credit card in there and it's done. How cool is that? It goes directly into our Tidely, which is what we wanted. It's something that we've been, the process itself has been under beta testing for a while because there's a lot of factors involved, but they did it. I like it. Yes, and thank you for bringing it up. For this registration, as well as You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, we tried the Tidely program. For those of you that don't know, we pay an extra $99 a month to Tidely, what they call all access. And so every feature they have is locked in at $99. We're not paying 30 here, 60 there, none of that. And they make their fee off of $99, and we get a small stipend off of every credit card transaction. That's typical. That's just the way it is out there. Somebody's got to get, you know, paid for processing our money. So what I did with the You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, because we're in a pandemic, and we did this with the grief workshop, I think, that she set it up, they set it up through Zoom, which was awesome, a registration system through Zoom. So I piggybacked on that, that was cool. And I said, well, if they can do that through Zoom, we should be able to do that through Tidely. Sure enough, set up an event, You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, and we're in pandemic mode, so it's hard to get a love offering for a class, so we charge the flat $35 registration fee, nominal cost, and said, here you go, and did it right through Tidely. So I can hit a button and it gives me everybody who's registered, name, address, phone number, everything. How cool is that? Perfect records keeping system. You know, we did the same for the pizza cabinet. So we're slowly getting into Tidely. It's a lot slower rate than I would have wanted, but there's a large learning curve. So we're walking through that learning curve. With any kind of luck, next week, Tracy will get access as well, so she'll be able to start doing things. We're just about done with the data entry and about ready to launch that. So there's more to come with that. Big picture is that you will have an app on your phone. That's Unity Spiritual Center's app. It have a picture of our church, just like any app. You hit on that, takes you to a window where you get to choose 6 or 8 different options. You know, oh, you don't like text to give and you want to go to the website that brings you to Timely, you can go to our website, hit funds, boom, our website, there's the link. You know, it's just going to be so much easier to navigate. And it's for those of us that are already in ministry. And we use our website for those that don't know about us. You know, so if you're an usher and you're a head usher, and this is your Sunday, you'll be able to access the app, go into your area of expertise, ushering, and see all the ushers, and you'll be able to send out an email. You don't have to keep a separate database. Everything's sitting there. If your address changes, you get on the app and you change your address, and it changes through everything. So there's a lot of features, and we're just taking us a little longer, but it's okay. We're going to gradually walk ourselves through that and use every feature we can, because that's the digital age. You know, we got to get on board with that stuff. And for $99 a month, we've already found ways to cancel other programs that more than cover that. So it isn't even an expense for the ministry. How cool is that? And I wanted to piggyback, and then I'll let you guys break. I wanted to piggyback on John's notion, talk about the finances. You see, because we're a nonprofit, we have a budget of $200,800 is our budget. Last year, we brought in $186,000. Our budget was $220 last year. We ended the year in the black because there were a lot of things we couldn't do because of the pandemic. So it worked itself out, right? So this year we said, well, we're not going to be in pandemic mode the whole year. We figured the first quarter, you know, and so based on that, what we want to accomplish, we came up with this $200,000 budget. So the question is, we only brought in 186 last year. Can we bring in 200,000 this year? We flipped a coin and said, probably. So we have a few things in our budget that we can eliminate if the money isn't there, so that we can still do what it is we really wanted to do as part of our process. Does that make sense? So it's in church business, and that's one of the things that we're looking to change in our sustainability, is wanting to know what money will come in. It is always the biggest mystery. We don't know from month to month, day to day, what's going to happen in the mail or through Tithely or anything. It's a big guess. And that's the hardest part of the church ministry, is not knowing. And the program that we're in with Mission-Centric is to eliminate that question. To no longer have it be a question, but it's clear what will come in. And we'll talk about that more later. So let's give it till 11. If you'll come back after that, I appreciate it. And look at your text to give. See what you can do with that. I want you guys to be able to do it so you can teach others.
Oh, I'm like, I don't know when it's happening, like, get arranged with. The first time I do it on my computer, when I'm. Yeah. That you know what, so you know what happened in my, so you can understand what happened. Right, and you can make sure that then the doctor is, and you're putting it in the masses. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, so welcome back. Welcome back. A few of you have got a job description on your table. You'll just glance at it and move to the next table. They think there's one on that table. And if you just glance at it, and you're not here to memorize it. Yep.
Well, let's see what we do.
It sure is. Like emergency lights are on. Blew a fuse somewhere.
Are you recording this?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you gonna put it online so somebody can listen to it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Later. Probably happen tomorrow. All right, so job descriptions. There's a job description passing around, going around. If we could have everybody's attention up here, and the way we do this in unity is we raise our hand. We raise our hand and we're not talking while we're raising our hand. And that brings everybody back to the room. Everybody raise your hand. Raise your hand, because we're not gonna chat while we're raising your hand. All right, let's do this, because I want you guys out of here too. And we're not leaving until I'm done with these 3x5 cards. Okay, so job descriptions. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this because we've done some center updates on it. But this is the format. And if you just glance at it and then pass it on to the next table, I didn't want to, print off a whole bunch of them just to have to toss them out later. So, but the board worked very diligently last summer to create job descriptions for each position on the board. The one that we printed out is the general job description. Because one of the things that happens in traditional church, which is we're trying to walk away from, is, would you like to serve on the board? Well, I don't know what they do. Don't worry about it. It's really not that big a deal. We meet once a month. And, it's really cool. You get on the board and you find out that they're about ready to fire the minister. And you're thinking, what? Oh, get me out of here fast. And when that happens, there's a disillusionment that takes place. That person is never going to want to be on the board ever again, no matter what. Right? Because they're going to have this memory of it being just awful. So what we've done is we've taken the guesswork out of what it is that you will be doing when you serve on the board. So there isn't really much in this document that isn't going to happen. This is it. And we created the same document for the executive positions on the board: president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So it's very clear, and this is our way of educating you on what the board does. So not only is the board doing these things, but now you know what they're doing and what their responsibility is. And the minister has a job description too. And the only thing it says on that job description in relationship to the board is that they're a member of the board. So I too have a detailed list of responsibilities. And of course, my role is not only on the board, because I'm not the leader of the board. Who would be the leader of the board? Right. So just like anybody else, when there's a matter for the board, I go to the board president. I don't sit at a meeting and say, oh, well, we're going to talk about this now, and nobody knew about it. We don't operate like that. It's open door. You program, it's open source. We have a relationship, and you develop that relationship because now you can count on someone doing these things. So it's no question anymore. And so what this lends itself is that we will be creating job descriptions. We will be using the existing job descriptions that were created by Reese's team a few years back. We're then going to take those job descriptions and look at them and reformat them into this format that says you can count on me as an usher to do these things. As a person on the welcome desk, you can count on me to do this. All of it. Tracy and I are working on her job description first, and then we're also going to hit the chaplains right after that, because the chaplain program is going through a metamorphosis right now, and all for the good. It's just one of those changes that is morphed into what it could be, a more potential. So my job is to get a job description for every position here in the church, all volunteer positions, and just refine them to what Greasy started, and now and I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna facilitate that it gets done. Because if I do it, what does that remind you of?
Minister-centered.
Thank you. And if we're leaning away from minister-centered, then the head usher's got to do this. The welcome desk has got to do it. And I'm just there to guide them through this, coach them through it. Tell me what you do. Here's a job script. We do all these things. Okay, let's put it in this format. So that if I see Pam, and I think Pam would make a great usher, she's here every week, I could give Pam this document and say, would you like to be an usher? She doesn't have to say, well, what do you do? Well, just take a look at this. And she's going to look at this and go, yeah, I get, oh yeah, I see them doing this. Yeah, I get it. Oh, once a month. Oh, okay. Twice a month. Okay. They know what they're getting into. Isn't that what we want? Right? Because then as head usher, I'm using ushers because it's just easy for me to flow out of my mouth. Head ushers now can count on you being there when you said you're going to be. Because it's going to say in the job description that if I can't be there, so it's going to say in the job description that if I can't be there on Sunday because something's come up, I'm going to call the other people that are ushers and get somebody to switch. I'm not going to call Tom, who's been usher, and say, Tom, I can't make it. I know it's Saturday night at 9 o'clock, but I can't make it tomorrow. And no, we don't have to have that. You see? And the hardest thing for a minister to do is fire a volunteer. And we have a lot of volunteers here. I would rather have you have a wonderful experience as a volunteer than have to say, you know, Pam, I'm picking on you because that's for the eye. Pam, you haven't made it here the last 3 Sundays that you were scheduled. Let's just move on. You don't want to be an usher. It's okay. You know, because she's saying yes, but means no. So we just weed those folks out. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We find where they're best suited, which brings me to best practices. One of the things, there was a manual written probably almost 10 years ago by Unity Worldwide Ministries called Best Practices for the Welcome Desk. It's in 3 phases. Just before the pandemic, the Welcome Desk volunteers completed phase 1. If you remember, we had parking signs that say for guests, the bathroom signs were put up, the way they approached, the way they talked to people when they walked in, there was a lot going on there. It was beautiful. We were just getting ready to hit phase 2 when the pandemic hit. So we're going to be tapping into phase 2. Phase 2 has to deal with people outside the welcome desk. So you're a first-time guest, you walk in and you're on the arms of somebody else who's a long-term member, right? You spot them, you know they're new, you're on the welcome desk, you're at the front door. You're at the front door, you're not the welcome desk, you're at the front door, you're a greeter. And you clearly see someone's walking in that's never been here before. What do you do? I don't know. We're gonna have to teach them. There's protocols that work. The objective is to get first-time guests to come back. So the only way we can get them to come back is we know what interests them. What are the 3 reasons people come to church?
Music, message, community.
Meditation.
Oh, sorry.
See, we have to find out what ticks for them. Most people come for the community. So we have to create a community around that for them. So they walk in, you're a greeter, you know, you gotta decide whether they should be hugged or not. If you hug somebody, you could offend them. If you don't hug them, you could offend them. You have to find out. So part of that welcome package is to train the greeters how to greet somebody for the first time. Then you've got the ushers. Then you've got the welcome desk itself. Then you've got the minister. You've got all of these factors affecting this guest. They came for something, right? So we want to be able to engage them in a way that gets them to consider coming back again. So less of a revolving door coming in, going out. Make sense? So we're going to be seeing some of that happening, and depending on where you are in your volunteerism, you might be asked to learn a different approach. And one of the things that's going to happen is we are creating ambassadors. An ambassador is someone that the welcome desk will say, Jody, this person's right up your alley. Would you ambassador them today? That means you give up your chat coffee time with your favorite table in the back after service. You in fact escort this guest. How do you like your coffee? Let me get you a cup of coffee. Oh, we got quiche today. You like quiche, don't you? Oh, I'm going to introduce you to all these people that you know are going to connect. And we sit at a table and they actually engage. You ask open-ended questions of this person. You get to feel them out. What do they like? So now the day's ended. They're gone. What's going to happen in the office? They're going to get a letter, which they apparently do. It says, hey, it was so nice to see you, Debbie. Can't wait to see you again. In case you want to know who we are, blah, blah, blah. That letter goes out. Every quarter, we're going to have meet the minister. And that's going to be an opportunity for any guest who come into the church during a weeknight and interact with each other that are new. What are we doing here? What brought you here? And you get to see who are you? How long are you going to be, you know? So you have that. So there's stuff cooking and all that. And that's the phase 2 of the welcome desk. And those are best practices. How do you get somebody to engage and want to come back? And many churches miss out on this window. They think it's enough to say, hey, it's nice to see you, hand you a packet, we do a nice blessing, and we hope they come back. We're going to go beyond the hope. We're going to give them a reason to come back. Whether it's fellowship, whether it's the message, because as we're interacting, we find out that, you know, I've been in studies about God for 40 years. Guess what's most important to them? The message. So you want to invite them, oh, you should hear Reynolds Talks online. We got this whole, our own YouTube channel, and you can hear, oh, Easter service was Spanish. We talk about, now you're engaging them, they're going to go to the website, their needs are going to be met, they're going to want to come back. Oh, Donna's music, oh, her music just inspired me today. Do you know that she's got some concerts coming up? And plenty of ways with which to facilitate getting the need met. You see, and we'll train you on that. And that's coming down the pike, and I wanted you to know that. So you know our vision. We we transform lives, and we make an opportunity for others to be transformed as well. That's our mission. So in this idea of we transform lives, every decision that the board and I make, now, here's a real clear line for you. It's not cut in stone, but consider this pretty black and white. The minister manages everything that happens for classes and the Sunday. Every facet of this facility is managed. If it has to do with the Sunday, the minister is responsible for it. If it has to do with anything outside the Sunday worship service, the board manages it. Give you an example. The lawn mowing. Is that a Sunday job? So the board is responsible for maintenance of the property. Now, I, as the spiritual coach, want the lawn mowed every Sunday. So there's a connection between what I want to achieve on a Sunday, in addition to all the things that the board does. So when you're asking yourself, I wonder if this is a board responsibility or a minister responsibility, that's a good way to put it in a box. It helps. So the welcome desk, the ushers, the platform, the music, they all go under the umbrella of the ministry. Make sense? So the finances are a dotted line to the minister and a solid line to the board. Okay, Joanne Howard is my subcontractor, who, through the grace of God of Joni, I don't have to oversee a whole lot. Because Joni is, thank you, Father. I appreciate that. It's one less thing I have to do, but I have to see that it gets done, right? It's part of my job. So our vision to transform lives involves the board and the minister working together to see to it that we have no activities, no thinking, nothing that takes away from our vision. And I call it, if we're doing anything frivolous, if it's not directly tied to the vision, we need to consider not doing it. And it depends on what that is. So the Sunday worship service has been flowing. We've got a flow in the Sunday worship service. It used to be a little jagged. And I like to think of the Sunday worship service as it just flows along. Got an opening prayer, an opening song. There's nothing that takes our emotions away. It's smooth. so that one of our three needs can always be met. That the meditation is enough for us to be able to get something from. The talk is enough to get something from, and the music. So my job is to do this. And so I'm looking at anything that we're doing on Sunday that could be done elsewhere. And if the answer is it can, it's not happening on a Sunday. I want it to be a transformative experience for anybody who walks in this door, including how we feel, how we talk to each other, our consciousness, our connectedness to people. You know, because if the person next to you, and you don't like to stand up and clap, it's okay, right? But the person who's a guest does. And you can see their tap on their feet, they're like looking for a green light to stand up and dance. Please stand up and dance. You see? You're helping somebody else have a transformational experience and it's not taking anything away from you. This is the part where we have a consciousness that is evolving because we have already been in a place where our lives have been transformed or are in the process of being transformed again and again and again. And we want that person who's new to have an opportunity for that transformation. So if you can help facilitate that, I would call that giving back. Because we have a mindset. It's just the nature of the beast. It depends on how you were raised, what happened with you as far as church goes. Some of us grew up thinking that church meant someone's going to ask you for money. There was a complete connection there. Every time you went to church, somebody was asking, pass the hat around here. So we do very little on church about money. We have a love offering, but we don't wallow into, well, we got this project coming. And so the fundraising concept needs to be diminished a little bit because it doesn't transform lives, it just detracts us from being transformed. It's like a change of subject right in the middle of a transformation. Does that mean we're not doing outreach? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We spent the summer coming up with a policy on how to manage outreach in a community that wants outreach. How do we manage it in a way that facilitates an opportunity to be transformed, but doesn't become who we are? There's a difference. So the policy is very simple. It really is. It's long-winded, but it needs to be. But it says something very important. If you have an idea for an outreach project, go on the website, look at the policy, and you'll see whether you want to do it or not. So we're not turning projects down. We're only asking that if you have an idea, it's your responsibility to facilitate it from the beginning to the end. You may not be an organizer, but you've got a great idea. You're going to find somebody who's an organizer who's willing to work with you to accomplish the task. It doesn't fall on the staff to do this brilliant idea that you came up with. You see? So in the pandemic state, we had 3 social activities and 3 outreach projects. During the pandemic. We had the Donna J concert right in our yard. We had the ice cream social, and we had the shoe drive as an outreach project. Right, feel free to buy a ticket or 2 if you want. Our auction is this Sunday. You don't have to be present. It'd be nice if you're here, because then we can give you the basket and move on. It's 28 baskets to give away, so But so we've done projects. We did. Wrong mic now. I don't know, but I wrote it up. I did. Those are good. Christmas gifts. That was the other outreach project we did. Where Donna managed, she said, I got a project, and we listened to the project as a board, and she said, that sounds good, are you willing to manage it? She said, yep. Off she went to town with it. We collected wonderful gifts to give to somebody else so that they can have a better Christmas in the middle of the pandemic. So there's talk, I won't call it parking lot talk, because they're talking directly to me, which is a beautiful thing, that we're not doing any outreach, that we're not doing social projects. We are. You have choice of whether you want to attend them or not. Are they bang up big time projects? No, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. You know, so I'm sitting there going, oh crap, I got an idea. Because I know that means I have to do it. So I went, you're gonna have to do it, Mom. I wanna play bingo. As soon as we're safe enough, I'm gonna pull up a bingo event. Invite the community and see what happens. You know, have some fun together and just do bingo. Who doesn't like bingo? You know, it's a good way to come together. So if you have a social activity you'd like to accomplish, we used to have a social activity committee, and they made it clear when they began the project, they were gonna do it for a year, see where it went. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to not only be creative, but to pull it all off and continually ask for people to help out. I know, but if you've got an idea, we could probably form a team around that idea, you know? And we'll probably have the Untitled Social again. You know, that went well, do it in the fall, you know, the projects. And then, of course, the spirit groups are all doing the social project, as well as the community project. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to engage with your community, however you define that. So I just wanted you to know that we are open and receptive to social and outreach projects. We are not closed-minded at all about it. We needed to come up with a concrete policy that would guide us instead of the willy-nilly that seemed to be going on. And it's much more orderly and much more successful when you have it this way versus it being scattered. So the Sunday services, we've cut out a few things out of the Sunday service. Nothing dramatic, you know, but we're staying on point. A little bit more music. Donna's doing one more song every Sunday than we used to. Give that. The meditation's gotten a little longer. We used to do anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes. We're now anywhere from 7 to 9 minutes on the meditation. I know for some of you, you know, is it over yet? You know, can I open my eyes and just see? You know, we just open one and see if anybody's. It's all good. Somebody shared this past week that they were watching the video of the Sunday service and they were in the meditation part, and they realized as they were in meditation that they'd been there a long time. And they felt like they'd been there a long time. And they opened their eyes and the video had paused. You know, God provides. Right? So, you know, everybody has, if you don't like the meditation, then that's one of the 3 you don't like. You probably are more inclined to the social or the talk. So the minister, the spiritual coach, has got to find a way to balance it all out versus me giving an hour talk, which I would love to do, but it's not going to serve and we'll be out of business an hour. So it doesn't serve. So we're still streamlining and just being real clear. Is this relevant? If it's not, then we need to move on. That brings me to the chaplains. The chaplains are going through a change. And it's just one of those things, you know. We've had a few people drop out, we've had a few people join, you know, and there's a balance act. And during the pandemic, we did the wellness call. We had a great bunch of people. How many of you did wellness calls? Quite a few of you did. Yeah. So we took the membership list and we divided it amongst all the people who wanted to do a wellness call, and then we called people every month with a different prayer, just to check in to see how it was going. What a beautiful gift. Well, the pandemic for that purpose is no longer valid, so we're no longer doing it. But it worked itself into a solidification of what people wanted. People want to talk to somebody else. You know, it's part of their spiritual growth. So the chaplain program, as you know, Denny and Carla are both running the chaplain program. And because of the changes, Carla is in a 5-week training program right now. She's 20% completed the training and going to come back. And we're going to operate as best as we can with the Leilani Burka prayer, which is a long-time prayer chaplain program that Reverend Leilani Burke out of Arizona teaches. And so she's in that class right now. And we're going to be facilitating some of those changes. You, as a general rule, won't notice any of the changes at all. It's more going to be about the organization and the format by which things are going to get done. done. Because the chaplain has many different roles. Right now, the chaplain lights the Christ candle before service, collects the prayer box prayers, does that. And then when we fully open back up, there'll be chaplains available on Sundays for you to pray with individually. So we have that, and of course, the chaplains will continue their monthly call. There'll be a little bit of tweaking in that call. But the chaplain program is an important aspect of our ministry. So we're really looking at it. How does this program transform lives? What can we do to solidify that and make sure it happens? So we'll have some more to talk about that later. So I want to invite Renee. Renee's on our board. And Renee is going to talk about our transformational partners. It's a new term. Think about it, and you'll understand it when she talks.
Take my mask off because I think it'll be
Talk to that one.
Okay, so Transformational Partners is what has been known as community outreach. Okay, and we have been giving to Haven House. Okay, we've also given to the Methodist Children Home Enterprise, to the Food Bank of Central Florida, and as Rev Mo said, we just collected shoes to give towards Green Apple. They're going to send those shoes to people in Haiti. So that was a really nice project that spirit groups basically did. And as you all know, many of you brought shoes here to the church. And Donna and Joan and I and Rev Mo, we went over to Green Apple and dropped those off. So there are a lot of the projects that are going on. The food bank, Donna collects, as you know, on the third Sunday for food and clothes. So we're very active. That is considered no longer community outreach. It's just been designated, if you will, as transformational partners. Those are people we're working with for us to transform and to help them as well. Okay, and as a church, as you know, we're still tithing, so it wasn't mentioned in our financials, but we do tithe. And who we tithe to, 60% of the tithe goes to Association of Unity Churches, Unity Worldwide Headquarters, which is Silent Unity, Unity Spirit Institute, which is Infinite Connections. And then the other 40% goes to Suncoast Unity Ministers, then Southeast Unity Ministers, and Urban School. And that equals 100% of our tithing that is done. Okay, so that is constantly, I mean, that is given to help others, and so we are fulfilling our own mission.
So you see, transformational partners are people that we've vetted and have said, this is a worthy organization. They are about the business of transforming lives with their ministry work. And so we're supplementing them to continue that transformational process. So some churches where I was in New Jersey, Catholic Charities was a big institute in that community. And so Catholic Charities, if anybody knocked on the door and said, I'm hungry, I need to eat, we would send them to Catholic Charities. If, you know, I'm in an abusive relationship, we would send them to Catholic Charities. So they had so many resources and so close to the ministry. It was a great place to send people. And so we would offer our tithe to that organization to further their ability to do those things on our behalf, versus us having a poor bank, somebody coming in that needs, and we give funds from that bank. So we let the agencies that are equipped to do it, while we can still benefit that organization. So if you've got an organization that you think you would like to add to our transformational list of partners, let us know. You got to do some homework on it. You got to tell us, you know, who they are and how we can make sure that they are who they are, because we know that there are organizations that don't always do what they say they're going to do. So we want to be sure that we vetted and our funds are going in the right place. Any questions on that? So, Mrs. Jones. Yeah, the scholarship fund, we've completed our obligation with the scholarship fund. We had some financial obligations with that organization, and so we completed that just before the pandemic. And so we're not at the moment doing anything for the scholarship fund, you know, and time will tell how that unfolds. For example, we have the Chinese auction. So the Chinese auction is gonna, we have not declared where those funds are gonna go, but they are going to one of our transformational partners. That much we know. So if you know somebody, an organization that you'd like to add to that list, then we can add them as well as part of our giving program. Hope that makes sense. Denny? I'm sorry? Well, it's always 10%. Whatever, and I think we do it quarterly, right? Do we write the checks quarterly? Every month. Yeah, whatever income we brought in, 10% is given right back out. Yeah, we are a giving organization of our gifts.
Is there something on the website, if I wanted to know which groups we are currently supporting? Is there something on our website where I can go and see that it's Haven or wherever?
No, but we can make that happen, maybe, Tammy? Yeah, so we'll make that happen. Yeah, and feel free in the next month, we don't see it, remind us. But let's add that too, because there are some things we want to do with the website as we go along with that too. Good question. Any other questions on this? Tracy's getting ready to go get the pizza, so we'll have lunch as soon as Tracy gets back, which is a beautiful thing. Good. So let's talk about spiritual gifts assessment. Have any of you guys ever taken a spiritual gifts workshop? Yeah, so there's a lot of programs out there with this, so we're going to be doing this probably July, and at least once a year, maybe do it twice a year, depending on the number of new people we have coming in. But the spiritual gifts assessment is simply a tool. It's not, you know, clad in stone, but it gives us an idea of what drives you to be fulfilled in your giving. And we're not talking about money, we're talking about your time, your volunteerism. You know, I always share the story of this wonderful, wonderful man who's 6'8", directly off the boat from Ireland. And he loved being an usher, right? The only problem is people were intimidated by him. And he was a huggy-lovey guy. He'd see you coming and he'd run after you to get the hug. You know, and as much as we tried to rein him in, he really had to convince him to become a greeter. He didn't want to be a greeter, he wanted to be an usher. It took 10 years for him to make that transition. Finally done. You know, he's hurting the ministry, not helping it. Okay? So the gifts assessment is to give you a foundation of what brings you joy in your giving. You know, and so new people coming in, they may never have had an opportunity to take a look at that. So part of my training to become a minister, when I was in my home ministry, every 6 months I would change ministries. And so by the following 4 years that I was there, I had 6 months of every single ministry. The soundboard, doing the e-newsletter, ushering, in the choir, children's church, every facet of it. So I knew what was going on, and by the time that thing was over with, I knew where I wanted to be, and it was not in Sunday school. That just, you know, it just wasn't mine. But other people, that's perfectly where they belong, you know? God save us. And so we're going to do the spiritual gifts assessment. I would encourage everybody to take it at least once, and always encourage the new person to come in and take that, so that they can find where they belong and what brings them the biggest joy. Because when you leave here on Sundays and get in your car, you want to know that you've made an impact, that you've not only just served, but that you had a good time. You get home and you're not really tired, or you know, you're just walking, oh, I had a great day today, because you gave where you belong. So that's the spiritual gifts assessment, and you'll hear more about that as we go through it. But also, I want to talk about the ABCs of a congregation. Now, some of you have heard this before, but I bring it up because as we go through this mission-centric, the more you realize where you are, the more you'll understand when there's changes that take place. Okay? So there's congregation A, B, and C. And it looks like this. Here's the minister, and here's the board of directors. And they're A's. They're leaders of the church, they're leaders of the ministry, right? Because we've elected these folks to be on the board, so they're in A, they're leaders, they're head ushers, head welcome desk, they're all A's. Then there's B congregation, and these are people who want to be A's, but they're just not there yet. Don't have time, just got into the ministry, want to know more about what's going on, but they're active, they attend all the events, they're good people, you always like them, you always want to sit with them at the table in the community room, nothing wrong, big group of people. And then you have the C's. Now C's are everybody else, right? These are the people we may or may not see beyond Sunday. They may show up only to bingo and nothing else. They pretty much walk in and walk out. You see them every Sunday, you don't even remember their name. Those are the C's, and typically the C's are the ones that contribute a token. You know what a token is, right? Now, without raising your hands, I was almost going to say, those of you that AA, raise your hand. But then that would have been broken confidentiality. In AA, everybody passes the hat and everybody gets $1. They punch $1 in the box. It covers the coffee, and a couple times they have cookies, that kind of stuff. Well, that mentality comes into the Sunday worship service, and they'll give $1 or $2, whatever they happen to have loose in their wallet. Might even be $5. How many have been ushers and you've counted quarters? Yeah. Those are the C people, not all of them, but that's where they sit. Now, this is what typically happens in ministries that think they're struggling. Okay? We are not a ministry that's struggling on any level. Our finances are solid, our mortgage is paid, we've had a downward trend on our membership, that's paramount to the virus. We're building back up, we're coming together, we're doing stuff. We are not in crisis. But sometimes people think they're in crisis, and that stems from the board. So this is what happens in typical church. Somebody in C comes to a board member and says, I don't like where we're headed. This really bothers me. I don't understand anything. What the board member hears is not that at all. What they hear is, we're dying, and that person's going to leave. So we go into a codependent state of awareness, and we try to please the C's. We give C's everything they want because we think that they're the ones holding up the community. When that's not the case at all. The A's and B's are holding up the community. The A and B's are giving 80% of all that gets done in the ministry is the A's and B's, and yet we'll listen to a C. And give them power over the A's and B's. So what happens is I, as the coach, have to say, so tell me more, someone's not happy. Yes, that's true. Well, what did they say to you? Well, they said that they were unhappy about blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. But what they communicate to me is, we got a group of people that are about to leave. That is not what happened at all. But that's what happens in our communication. And so, we better start explaining who and what we are better so that they'll stay. Well, the C's are not aware of what's really going on with them. And so they'll come up with a reason to leave the ministry that has nothing to do with us. They're the ones revolving doorways. In a lot of faiths, you see them at Christmas and New Year's, Christmas and Easter, right? That's the C group. So the minister's job is to be aware that C exists, but to serve the A and B's. Because I can't do it all, right? Just one person. So the chaplains take care of the Cs, because some of these Cs are members, right? No issue. And we, in our mission center, we're looking at ways to move the C into a B. Can't move them all. But our welcome desk and our focus on spirit groups and the Q process will move those into Bs. If they're willing. If they want to take some classes or whatever's going on, there's a window there. Now, most of you here probably walked in as a C and rapidly moved to A with no hesitation. Probably leaders in your community and your own life. Before you retired, you probably had a role in the business decisions. So it's a natural flow. But most people are intimidated, wanting to get involved. And part of that is because they don't know what's expected. So we get clear job descriptions. Now the C knows what it's going to take to be an usher. We get a clear idea of what strives them. Excuse me, the music, the talk, or our social. We start to engage them more so that they're willing to take a look and become a B, and then eventually become even a higher leader in the ministry. Does that make sense? You see, because we can't, each of us can't run the church. That's why we have a board. You know, and there's a level of trust that must happen in trusting your board on where you're headed. You know, so you have to, because you can't do it. You have to trust your elected officials, so we would say, about doing it, especially since we're not in any kind of crisis program. And I don't anticipate one happening. So A, B, and C, it's important that we understand where one is coming from. So if you're in the parking lot, somebody approaches you, you know they're a C, and they say things that aren't going well for them. Have a dialogue. Communicate with you. And just, you know, hey, what's going on? I go, you know, I don't get a whole lot of this news. Well, I haven't seen you in weeks. You know, if you were to come more often, you might get more out of it. Now, are you being judgmental? Are you being critical? Yes and no. But you also want to say what's going on for you. Because we cannot make decisions on C's. Because they will not be here to sustain this ministry. So, you know, in old church tradition, 100 people walk through the door and 2 stay. What? That's a lot of work has been extended to 98 people. And so our objective is to move that into a 50%. Because if we can engage them, they'll stay. Because we need to be here. So as far as spirit groups go, we're launching, as you all know, we've launched Joe Goldsmith's class because someone approached me and said, you know, I think I'd like to do this. And I said, give it a shot. Give it 6 to 8 weeks, see what happens out of it. If it's something you want to pursue a little longer, go for it. If you didn't get what you wanted from it, you can quietly walk away, no harm, no foul, see where it goes. And it accelerates. So it's a program we're going to keep. It's another spirit avenue for someone to receive more about who they are within that program. The power of 8. How many of you are familiar with the power of 8? Yeah, big thing out there right now. We're going to start doing that here. We're going to do it right here in the ministry. And we're going to gear it a little bit towards spirit groups, so some of those 5 C's are in there. And then we'll continue with spirit groups, which is a specific program. But there'll be plenty of ways for people to be spiritually fed outside the Sunday worship service. And that's the objective, to be able to give people choice about how they want to have their spiritual growth. Now, social, because remember, that's only one aspect of it, right? Because there's music and there's social. So the social aspect has to naturally grow. And it will. You know, it will naturally tend to itself. You know, we've got some beautiful grounds here. I don't know if any of you walk the labyrinth. It's a great place. You don't mind taking a ride in the morning, go walk the labyrinth. It's peaceful, it's beautiful out there. It's just, you know, it's good stuff. You know, we have tables out front. You can sit and have a cup of coffee with somebody or invite somebody in. But what do you think about canopies out front selling all the goods all the things that we make, those artists within us? You know, what about opening the community room to somebody's art show? once a month. You know, there's so many things that we can do that generate a sense of community and gets us involved in a way that, you know, we make the papers once in a while, kind of thing, because we're doing something unique, you know. Does that make sense? Hope so. Okay, so, I want to talk about Gary, Dr. Gary. He's in our budget this year to visit us. In late, sometime before Thanksgiving is what we're looking at. And he's coming with a very clear objective. How many of you have taken Eye of the Storm? Yeah, quite a few of you. And in Eye of the Storm, remember the little card that said, "Who have I come here to be?" And on the other side, "Forgive me for being this way." Remember those cards? Well, he's coming to do what's called the genogram. And the genogram is creating that card for the ministry rather than for an individual. Our ministry is 14, 15 years old. And so there is history there that warrants us to take a look at it. And what we do during that time with him is we're going to look at the sorries, the regrets, the joys, the completions, all of the things that from the beginning of our inception to today, all that's sitting there, because this building and our consciousness has a DNA. It's just, you bring people together, it creates an energy. And that energy needs to be opened up to who are we? What have we been? And who do we want to be? And so in that process, by completing this genogram for Unity Spiritual Center, we will have something posted probably over there, a big card that says, "Who have I come here to be? And who am I not?" And the point being is that as we grow in a ministry, when things get a little crackly and we start to question, or there's some unrest of some sort, we can go back to the card and say, "This has happened before. I felt this way once before. And I don't want to go there again. I don't want to have what happened here before ever happen again." How many of us have said that in relationships, only to recreate them? This is a relationship that we have. So it's up to us to weed out what doesn't work and embrace that which does work. And when we can solidify and put a label on it, it'll be helpful for when things don't go the way that we thought it would be. Because we're in a universe where things change on a dime. So we need to be prepared for it. It's kind of like going to pre-Cana before you got married. How many of you did that? You know, or seeing your counselor. You've just entered a relationship. You know, relationships have come and gone here in this ministry. Let's take a look at it. So he's going to facilitate that. He's also going to meet with the board and meet with me. It'll be a weekend. He's going to do the Sunday talk as part of that. And so we're going to spend the whole weekend with him, and he's going to be available after the Sunday service to have a conversation with any of you who want to. So he's our coach, and he's part of our contract, so let's bring him in. So that's going to happen at the latter part of the year, and we'll see how that unfolds. And then he can talk to us a little bit more about what's coming down the pike within years 2 and 3 and 4 in the program. So what we've really talked about is what's happening now. You know, we've talked a lot about what has been, and now we're getting ready to embrace what would happen, what can happen. Okay? Okay, so any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Years ago, there used to be a lot of ministers that would kind of go around to different churches, and then in the afternoon they would have a seminar type of thing. Could that be part of this program, or is that not something that Unity is doing right now?
Okay. Joni's raised a good question. Let me paraphrase just a little bit. When I'm comfortable that you've progressed to a certain degree, I get to leave. And you get to open the door to somebody else. My job is done. I'm looking forward to it, because that means I've accomplished what I came here to do. And then I'm then going to go on the circuit. And I'll be able to speak at different churches to espouse this program. Okay? So while you're busy looking for that other minister, you'll invite a bunch of other folks in.
I remember years ago in Unity, there would be a lot of different people that would come in on a Sunday, and they would do the service, and then in the afternoon, they would have a seminar.
Okay,
And then they would go to another church.
Oh, really good question. God, sorry, I misunderstood you. We currently have guest speakers who come in, and they ask us, almost all of them ask us, can I do a workshop afterwards? Right? Almost all of them do. And when I find out what they're going to talk about, I'm like, no. Usually what they're going to talk about is something social, not spiritually based. And they want to talk about a product or something, or a program they belong to. And that's been our issue of late. Of late, we've had some issues with that. We've had to say that we get, in a month's time, we probably get 3 to 5 people who want to come here and speak. And when we look into who they are, they're not Unity. So we've had to say no. You know, I mean, we're not talking, it's not even new thought. It's usually about them wanting us to buy their product. And I won't expose you guys to that. You can find that online, do that on your own. You know? And so we have 2 guest speakers coming in May. Anne Marie is one of them. And then we have Reverend Jesse is coming on the 30th. And it's a holiday weekend, because that's typically when I'm going to be going, is the holiday time. So people won't attend a Sunday event on a holiday weekend. So the last thing I want to do is bring a speaker in here, get them all geared up, and have 5 people show up. It's tough. It's a tough one. We have some time in September, and I've got 5 guest speakers coming in September, and 2 of them are doing workshops. So, you know, it depends, because I know it's like, we can't follow the rule about the snowbirds anymore. You know, we're a 24/7 church. We're not 9 months and then closed for 3 months. We're open 12 months out of the year. So we bring these workshops in, but that's going to happen in September. It just hasn't fit lately. No other reason.
I was just asking if that was, I'm going to use the word allowed, if that was supported under this.
Oh, yes. Is it part of the Mission-Centric?
Right.
Yeah, it's not part of it. You know, what is part of the Mission-Centric is we still have a church store. We still have a spiritual community to evolve with. So if there's a program that somebody has that will further our spiritual growth, I'm all over it. Much like we did the grief workshops. Yeah. Oh, Market Creek. Market Creek would love to come in. We'll put that on the list of things to do. Market Creek would love to come in. She comes every year in Florida. She comes every year. I had invited her to be here March, June during the pandemic. And so it was October of last year when we said, you know, she said, I'm not going to Florida, so I said, yeah. So Martha Creek's on the hopper to come. She would love it. Yeah, she loves all of you. I hope you guys all have a relationship with her. Pizza has arrived. So those of you who have your lunch, you're more than welcome to eat in here. Everything's out there. We have some sodas. We have ice for the sodas or whatever works for you. It's noonish. So if you can do your business and be back here by 12:30, does that sound right? I get a show of hands, 12:30 is good? Try not to make me force you to come back in. Just come back in at 12:30. Make my life easy. Enjoy lunch.
Are we eating in here or out there?
Yes. In here. In here. Yeah, the other tables have those gifts on them.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I had,